So in the beginning of 2026, I created a YouTube video about a simple trading bot that I've built during a weekend. That video got a lot of traction, at least compared to some of my previous videos. And I kept doing videos in that niche and kept getting more and more views. And I really thought that I've stumbled upon a big opportunity here. There was a lot of interest and traction. So I decided to create a SaaS project. And I thought initially this is something that's going to take me 4 to 6 weeks to build and validate. But I was very wrong. It actually took me more like 5 to 6 months to actually validate this project. And by the time I was finally ready to launch it, a lot of the buzz and excitement around this project has kind of faded away. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened, how I started and where we ended up. And if I had to start again today, what I would do differently. So this project I started fairly quickly during a weekend. I was kind of bored and I created a simple Python script that was a trading bot on Polymarket. At the time, there was a lot of buzz around trading bots on Polymarket on X. So I thought, why not try and make my own trading bots? And then at the time I also thought, why not do a YouTube video about it? So I posted that, and that video, to my surprise, actually got a lot of traction. I think at the time of recording, it has probably more than 40,000 views, which of course for some is not a lot, but for me it was actually a lot because my previous videos only got like 50 or 100 views. So that was really exciting. And I was also really excited because I used at the time agentic development. At that time, there was a lot of buzz around that, so I tried that out, and I was amazed how fast it was to create and build projects and scripts and so on. And it really led me to believe there might be something here, because I kept doing these videos on YouTube and again about Polymarket trading bots. All the videos got actually quite a lot of views. So that was a lot of buzz around it. So it led me to believe there might be something here, and I decided to launch what today is called Raven, a no-code trading bot builder for Polymarket, and it's like a framework to build your own trading bots. So I announced that in Discord and YouTube, and then I just started building out. 6 weeks seemed really realistic because I already got a lot of traction. I really felt like agentic development was really good, really fast, and I could just build so many features so fast. And at the time, I already had a working prototype. I had a script. It could do basically most of the stuff that I wanted it to do. And again, AI really helped out building features, bug fixing, and just made everything so much faster than how long it would normally take if I did it all manually. So I thought, I should be able to get something out and validate it within 4 to 6 weeks. And that's what I said to everybody. That's what I posted on my website. And that's what I told everybody in the YouTube video. And I think that is probably realistic if I had kept the scope within what it was at the time, just a single script to deploy a single trading bot. But what I envisioned was a framework for everybody else to design and build their own strategies, deploy their own strategies, both in simulation and with real money. And that turned out to be not true. It did not take 6 weeks. It actually took more like 4, 5, 6 months of actually really intense development, a lot of AI tokens and a lot of weekends building and building and building. Because once I started building on Raven, I quickly realized that there's actually a lot of stuff to this. It's not just one script running a single strategy. Now it's this strategy builder where people can, by their own mind, just design their own strategies with this drag and drop builder that I created at the time. And it also meant there's a lot of other stuff that I need to think about and build. So for example, a system to design and refine strategies. You have to connect different data sources. You have to connect with Polymarket APIs. You have to create a simulation engine. I also created a backtesting engine at the time. You have to do authentication and security because we have, real money here, private keys stored in a database. I have to figure out all this stuff. I have to deploy it on a server. I have to figure out how to secure a server. I have to deploy these bots with these Docker containers. have to create, the UI dashboards. You have to handle the data. You have to store it in, in S3. There's to implement a lot of safeguards and figure out how to handle the risks and stuff like that. Optimize latency, and not to talk about just the Discord community. Now I start to get people onto Raven, trying it out in simulation, getting feedback in from that, and have to fix all the bugs coming in. So you can quickly imagine that all these things coming in, it's definitely not going to be possible to do this kind of project in just 6 weeks. And I think by the time the 4 to 6 weeks marks had ended, I realized, I need more time. And there was still a lot of traction at the time. So I thought, I'll just gonna keep grinding. So most of the architecture and features and stuff like that was in place within, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks, yes. But then I started to get users in, right? I open up for a lot of users to test it out. And of course, then you get into this iterative process where on one hand, you have users asking for new features that you want to implement. And on the other hand, you also have bugs that has to be fixed. So I've been really, really grateful about people helping me out testing Raven. And that has definitely made Raven much more robust and higher quality than what it had otherwise been if I just done it only by myself. So I've been really grateful for that. But that has also been a very high contributing factor to why things took that long, simply because, there are so many edge cases that you have to think about, like when people, they combine and design their strategies. Sometimes I saw people using the system that I have never imagined that you could do. And actually, in most of the cases, it worked. But then you would have these edge cases that I would have to fix, of course. So it was this balancing act between adding new features, but still sticking within the core, architecture, and then also fixing the bugs that would come in. And of course, a big factor why it also took that long is simply because, well, it's real money, right? It's a trading engine, and it just adds so much more complexity and risk, because you really need to make sure that everything is just polished and does not cause any major bugs. Of course, a little bit bugs here and there is okay, but it's not like a regular SaaS where if there's a critical bug that people is gonna lose their money like they would in Raven, because in Raven, like, there could actually be bugs where actual real money would be lost because it did not behave the way that the user intended it to do. So I made sure that everything was tested thoroughly. I went through a lot of different steps to test it with myself and other users, and also had users coming in with my money and trading with my money on their trading bots just to get data in, just to get feedback in. And that really helped shape Raven to what it is today. So the project took much longer than I expected. I thought I could validate it within 4 to 6 weeks, but actually it took me probably 6 months to finally validating the project. And by the time I was ready to validate it, a lot of the momentum, a lot of the excitement, a lot of the, that trend of trading bot has kind of faded a little bit away. And also probably has something to do with my own motivation or lack of doing these YouTube videos, because at the time I really tried to keep the deadlines. So it was difficult to both work and code every single day, all weekends, a lot of time spent, and then also getting ideas for YouTube videos, because that's kind of what kept the momentum going and getting people into trying Raven is these YouTube videos, right? It was so difficult. And to be honest, I think around March, April, that's when I started to lose a little bit of motivation. Not because there was not so much traction in the project, but just because there was so much work with Raven, building it out and talking with the community members and, fixing support tickets and stuff like that. And it just made me neglect YouTube, and that kind of also impacted the momentum of getting people into the Discord and getting people into Raven and trying that out. So I think a lot of the people that came in, on Discord and on my email list in January and February, which is probably, I would say 70 or 80% of all the people interested in it, they probably lost interest, right? Because people, they move on, they find something else. And it was kind of a trend at the time. I feel like nowadays there's not so many talk about trading bots. Maybe there is, maybe it's just my algorithm, I'm not sure. But I think it kind of faded away a little bit. So yeah, so when we were finally ready to launch like early access where there was live trading to like really validate the Raven idea, there wasn't really that much activity. I think there was only 1 or 2 people that actually added money to their Raven account. And it's something I want to talk a little bit more about in a later video, like how that was validated and also how I'm seeing Raven going forward and what's going to happen with Raven. So what would I do differently? So if I'm looking back at the time, I think the most important thing that I've been telling myself since then is if I'm going to do a SaaS again, I need to validate it within those, I would say 2 to 4 weeks. Do a very, very simple version of your grand idea. So my idea behind Raven was this big, elaborate framework with, a trading bot builder, simulations, backtesting, live trading, and so on and so forth. If I had to do it again today, what I would do is taking a sub part of that. It could be one element of it, and then just building that and then validating that. For example, it could be just the Python script I created at the time and just do one strategy that I could share with the people, maybe with a few tweaks and configurations and settings, but not this elaborate framework. I think that would be realistic to launch within 4 to 6 weeks and then validate that. And then if that worked out well, then keep going and like maybe add more features to that. Not do this grand scheme. So if you have this vision of a big idea, maybe take a sub component or sub module, one tool from that grand idea and then just validating that. Because at the time I thought that these YouTube videos and people going to the Discord kind of was a validation in itself, which you could probably argue kind of is. But there's a big difference between people being interested in an idea and, following along the progress and then actually using it and, becoming a customer. So yeah, since Raven's success criteria was whether people were interested in live trading with Raven, I think it would have been much more sensible to create a simple trading bot, not a framework that would allow people to trade live on Polymarket. It could be some kind of a bot template, just a script, a template that people could kind of just copy and run by themselves, almost maybe just a one-click strategy on a landing page, just to validate if people are actually interested in depositing money and then trade live. And then with that, I'm also thinking like next time I'm going to do a SaaS, I'm not going to do something that involves money because that's also a completely different, ball game, right? So I think in the future, I would not do like high risk stuff such as gambling or trading or something that actually involves money. I would just solve one very, very specific and simple problem that I can validate within 2 to 4 weeks. And that's it. And then just work on from that. Coming video, I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail about Raven, what happened when we launched and what happened up until launch, and also what's gonna happen now after launch and going forward. So if you want to follow along that process, you can hit the subscribe button, like button, also leave a comment down below if you have any ideas about where you want to see Raven going from here on out. So with that said, see you at the next video. Bye bye.